Hello everybody and welcome back to Pravus Gaming and more Plague Inc. Evolved custom scenarios. We have another request today. It is called the Ultimate Bioweapon. Now, confession, I have already played this, or at least I tried to. I recorded the entire episode, but I forgot to hit the stop recording button before I exited the game, which tends to upset Bandicam and automatically corrupted the video file, so I have to do this all over again. And as you're about to see, this scenario is pretty in-depth. It's impressive, actually. But it's a little exhausting because it uses a lot of medical terminology that I barely understand at all. So I'm exhausted already going into this. Please give me some slack. Let's try it again. I don't know how you say this, Isableger. No. We'll go with it. Shout out to Hemoptysis/Mushy, who is a member of the Discord channel. One of the best scenario creators out there. 100% worth it. Check it out. Totally agree. I believe these two people coordinate a little bit. Theoxys helped guide the development of the scenario a little bit, provided some feedback early before it was released. At least that's what I think I was seeing based on some chatter back and forth on Discord. And it shows. This is a pretty in-depth scenario. Oh god, you're going to find out. Skip to the end for important information. Well, it's a genetically modified pathogen made to destroy all that it touches. There's a lot of stuff being said here. I'm not going to read through all of this, because I have an idea what I'm doing already. One thing to say here is there's a branch of abilities that seems unattractive, but it leads to something worthwhile, question mark? I guess? I don't know. Praise Pravus! Holy crud, let's give this one a shot. Now, the author does recommend certain things, certain genetic codes, but I'm going to stick with my regular setup here. ATP boost, genetic mimic, oxidized streaming file, and transstasis. Pathostasis, I think, could be a very good option. The author also recommends creationist to reduce mutation chance, but if you play it correctly, I think the mutation chance ends up being helpful and not necessarily a hindrance at normal difficulty. Higher levels, yeah, I can see that being a problem. IVC-NP1. Oh god, my brain's already rejecting this. It's like, please don't read all this stuff again, but it has to happen. It has to happen. Radical folds established. Viral RNA active, maintained. Establishing core mechanism. Codons incorporated. Preparation complete. Ready for contamination. Viral biological weapon. You will end up peaking your severity if you aren't careful. You already are exceptionally lethal, so be careful. If you need to speed up the process, make sure you don't just evolve, mutate all of the symptoms. Creationist is recommended, but we're not going to do that. Let's start off in Saudi Arabia and go to the transmissions tree. Now we start off with host 1. The host adaptation for bioweapon is completed, able to infect most biotic life forms. Alright, sounds good. That leads to zoonotic insertion. H7N4 genes accessed. Process of genetic inclusion commencing in bioweapon. Complete status of genetic access. Further genetic data is required. Doesn't cost me anything, but it does lead to zoonotic bridge, which allows us to go for a few extra transmission types. We'll go ahead and pick that up now. Also, we'll pick up Air 1 because it's Saudi Arabia. Starting in air sounds good. Expel the liquid from pathogen. More effective in arid and humid countries. Two things that I very much like. We also have birds with the mutation chance, not eager to ramp up mutation chance quite yet. Host 2, increased symbiosis and tuning between pathogen and host, more likely to go undetected, allows for increased body access, unlocking special symptoms. Sounds like something I want, and I happen to know this is going to lead to some corpse transmission, which becomes very, very powerful for the bioweapon later. Also, the idea of not going detected sounds pretty cool too, so we'll want to pick that up early. Bioweaponary vector deletion. Vectors and genes leading to death of carriers are deleted temporarily, can be harder to analyze, increasing infectivity, lowers lethality increase. So if you've forgotten, the way that the bioweapon works is as you play, it is passively building up your lethality over time. You don't want a lot of early game lethality because it means that people are likely to close down their borders, so you want to manage that lethality. That's a major mechanic of the bioweapon, and this actually helps us do that, so we want to get this pretty early on. Bats, increasing infectivity and mutation chance. Insects, increasing hot climates and mutation chance. Both of them quite good. We'll hold off on that at the moment. Symptoms. This is where it gets really crazy. Biotic takeover. And by the way, every time I read the word biotic, I'm sorry, I can't help but think of Mass Effect. It's just where my brain goes automatically. Cellular pathways are accessed by pathogen if present, allows for infection of bloodstream and rapid replication, can cause an immune response. Cytoneurological breakdown. Pathogen attacks the brain cells, causing fast and severe impacts. Rapid cell death can make it harder for focus for the host, obviously reducing our cure progress. And finally, we have abilities. We start off with codon establishment. Radical folds to proteins completed. Creation of automated tRNA production unlocks future modification traits, increasing severity and new abilities. Gene expression 1. And this is again where you like realize, I have no idea what's going on. Polymer of amino acids used to create new proteins. Okay, that makes sense so far. Chain of amino acids conveyed into mRNA proteins to help with cellular communication between ribosomes. And now I'm lost and have no idea what's being said. And this is not shade on the author at all. It's more shade on myself because I'm kind of wondering if I'm stupid. Because sometimes, like, seriously, as I was playing this through before trying to record it, I really don't understand most of what's being said. It sure as heck sounds technical, but I'm completely lost. By the way, we have some lethality building up, so let's go ahead and reduce the ramp up a little bit. We'll go for pathozoonotic switch next. Completion of H7N4 filling in genes. Help cover majority of carriers without killing them. Lethality genes can be converted into infectious agent, harder to analyze, which presumably is reducing lethality ramp up and giving us more infectivity as a result, which sounds like the sort of thing that we want. Scotland should become a part of France. Oh, that's the old alliance right there. Pathoviral fusion. Pathogen fuses with H7N4. Finishing zoonotic switch. Raw DNA and bioweapon is eliminated using fission for replacement with H7N4 genes. Can be harder to analyze. Sounds good, does not sound like something I need at the moment, but we will go for the Air 2 for better arid and humid country transmission, which makes a heck of a lot of sense. If you start in Saudi Arabia, which is arid, you're next to a bunch of North Africa, which is also arid, and if you go east, you get to India and Southeast Asia, which turns out is very humid. Both of which, quite good for me. Let's go for host 2 to reduce the likelihood of being detected. We could go for host 3. Symbiosis increases, the host is more likely to spread the disease. I don't know if that means that I also am less likely to be detected even further, but we'll go for it. Here's Leech 1, which leads to the corpse transmission. Viral receptors drain life from cells, can accumulate waste in the host. Uses host's raw genetic material, thereby increasing that corpse transmission. Sounds nifty. I could go for some Burge. Mutation chance is a little bit risky, but at this stage of the game, I think I can afford a little bit, and the extra land transmission can be pretty darn helpful for an early game spread, so we will try for that. We're going to go for bioweapon repair, which is misspelled, by the way. This resets a lot of the lethality, so we're less likely to have ourselves detected and shut down. The pathogen goes into hiding. Heals damage done to exoskeletal membrane/shell covering pathogen. Resets lethality temporarily, can be harder to analyze. Dear God, I need a drink. Thank you, LaCroix. Okay. We also have... Did we already talk about cytoanemic bond? I don't think so. Eukaryotic... I don't know how you say that. Eukaryotic? Evolution of pathogen allows for cell receptors to bond with host cells, increasing infectivity, unlocking new transmission and symptoms, things that we ultimately will want. There's a cytoneurological breakdown, whether we like it or not. By the way, why is it so easy to say the word cytoneurological? That's easy. And yet other things like eukaryotic or whatever, eukaryotic, is a little bit harder. Heck if I know. Do I want gene expression? I don't think so. I think... But this doesn't give me much of anything either. We could go for a little bit of extra infectivity with the biotic takeover, and I will do that. That leads to pulmonary edema, which has some lethality, and hypocoagulation, which increases severity and infectivity a little bit. Again, a little bit of lethality is not the end of the world for us, but we do need to be very cautious about that. A bit more severity isn't the worst thing in the world either. But mutation chance will do a lot of that work for me. Let's instead go for the gene expression level 2. That leads to intron transcript, protein coding genes sequences with intragenic regions of pathogen causing splicing. Mature mRNA are formed and produced, unlocking more symptoms, transmissions, and abilities. Okay, we're going to go for that next. Transmissions. We have our insects and our bats. I know this eventually leads to things like blood. We may need to go for some extra transmissions, and if I'm going to do that, I'm probably going to go for bats, because that's a lot of extra infectivity. And we can probably manage that mutation chance at this point. They have detected me now, which is good. We have 60 million people infected. We're going to go for the insects. Again, we're ramping up that mutation chance, so we need to be a little bit cautious here. Liquefactive liquefaction. Inner hydrolytic enzymes released can decompose pathogen to be transmitted through water. That sounds nice and all, but I don't think when I was playing this before I even found the water transmission. So I'm sure it's somewhere, but I didn't find it before. Monitory radar, more work needed for a cure. I'm sure that's pretty good too, but instead I think we will go for the cytoanemic bond, which leads to freezing absolution, reducing infectivity, but increasing cold effectiveness, and immune fomentation, increasing heat effectivity. Also some severity and so on. For our new transmissions, there's our blood. We have it. Poor regions, mutation chance. probably not worth that at the moment. Instead, I'm going to go for the hypocoagulation. If we wanted to control the mutation chance a little bit better, I suppose we could not go for some of these abilities, but I'm not especially worried about it at the moment. So do I want to go for the liquefactive liquefaction, or do I want to go for the freeze and absolution? Well, we are in Russia, and I kind of need to get a boat into Greenland, so even though it reduces my infectivity, I think we ultimately have to do this to even stand a chance of spreading faster in Russia. Intoxication is not something I want to see. The cirrhosis of the liver is quite bad for me. We do want to get bioweapon repair level 2, which costs 22 DNA but resets the lethality a little bit. So that'll buy me a little bit more time. That does lead to bioweapon healing 3. Immune genes incorporated permanently in exchange for lethality and infectivity genes. Weakens the pathogen, heals the damage, can be harder to analyze. But it reduces my severity and lethality, but at the cost of a lot of infectivity. And to be honest, I don't think that that's going to be a good trade-off for me. So instead, we're going to go for pressurized compression. Compression of genomes. Change outer format of pathogen to adapt to increase air and water density and pressure, increases infectivity and cold effectiveness, which is really what we wanted to see. Radiofrequent elevation. Self-destruction of DNA causes sporadic mutation in pathogen, builds up resistance to radiation, increasing your mutation chance. Not something we want right now, probably something we are going to want later. Okay, so we can go for the pathoviral fusion. That leads to zoonotic shift, increasing future research speed. And bird 2, again, a bit more mutation chance, but hey, land transmission's good. This should have led to fish. I guess this is where you need the liquefactive liquefaction. So it's not water transmission per se, but it does lead to a new transmission right here, fish. Common fish are susceptible to infection, can infect when consumed by hosts, increasing boater and water infectivity. That's what we are looking for above all else. Makes things a lot easier going forward. There's the pulmonary edema. I'm not sure that I want this. Let's refund that and get some points back. We have a bit of lethality built up here, and I don't think there's much I can do about it. What we really need is to spread faster in places like Russia. Let's go for the corpse transmission. We could go for another level of this. I'm not sure how much good that does, but let's try it. Leech 3. Endolysin is released in the cell, causing rapid failure of most organic prokaryotes. Did I say that right? Bioweapon will consume most genetic material, increasing corpse transmission. We also have vigilant leeching. Vigilantly dispose of waste and attach itself to cells. I have no idea how good that's going to be for me. But okay. Just trying to spread faster as we kill people in Russia. That extra corpse transmission could make a difference. We are only missing Greenland at this point. And then I want to ramp up my mutation chance as much as is possible. I'm going to go for the pulmonary edema. I think it's safe to do that right now. As long as I don't close down the shipyard here, there's Greenland. Okay, and intoxication mutates as well. Good enough for me. Let's go for the... probably the radiofrequent elevation for the extra mutation chance. Pick that up. Okay, so the global research is now focused on the cure, and now we are going to be racing the AI. For that, I would like to get probably monetary radar. We can get more complex genes and make things harder to cure. Lowering infectivity does not really bother me at this stage. The corpse transmission alone will probably take me through the rest. So, we want to focus on slowing down the cure and increasing mutation chance as much as is possible. We did get Hemoptysis. So this, coughing up blood and an inflamed bronchi and bloody sputum in lungs, increases infectivity and is fatal in extreme cases. We can also go for the internal hemorrhaging, which gives us a lot of extra lethality chance, which frankly gives me DNA and is probably worth it. But I'm mostly concerned about that cure being a little bit too hard for me to manage at this point. So we're going to go for that instead. Let's see, 36 DNA is what we're looking for. There it is. Perfect chemistry. Toxin chain released. Annihilates, I'm guessing is what you mean to say here. And totalitoriates. Totalitoriates? Is that a word? Outer membrane of pathogen. Increases infectivity and severity, much more complex. Again, anything to slow down that cure is good. There's the internal hemorrhaging. That leads to granulocyte disruption. Allergic response of immune system leads to increased action of granulocytes, increases enzymes and defensins, can lead to toxins and superoxides being released, very lethal. And hypoxemia, I think is how you say that. Breakdown of homeostatic mechanism causes CO2 and O2 levels in arterial membranes to change the blood constant because obviously, leading to low oxygen levels in blood and eventually death, which is basically meaning that not enough oxygen gets to the rest of your body, and I think you basically asphyxiate and die. We're going to go for the perfect chemistry. Deity genetics. Nucleotides perfect bonding and is regulated at all times. Pathogen can correct errors instantaneously. Increased complexity can make genetics harder to modify. Usually, I would have to assume that that means we are going to get a better cure resistance. Let's pick that up. Okay, that sets back a lot of the cure. So they are working on me rapidly-ish, but at this point, there's no healthy people left in the world, and we're pretty gosh dang lethal. So I think we're going to be A-okay. Let's go for the hypoxemia and asphyxiation, which is often fatal. Anaphylaxis, so anaphylactic shock, causes itchy rash, shortness of breath, lightheadedness, and eventually death. Renal hydrolysis may lead to kidney failure and difficulty urinating. There's a lot of options for that mutation chance to get out of control, and I can see why the author was saying, hey, you may want to go for creationist, because going for tons of symptoms may end up being very dangerous. And that is certainly true. But that's one of the reasons I did not go for a lot of symptoms. But mutation chance is kind of the only reason we are winning this scenario, because this would all get very expensive. So I don't know. There's a lot of options to kill people. Like, I'm glad to see that. That's good. Do I want to go for granulocyte, or do I want to go for something else? I guess I can go for a genetic reshuffle here. It's perfectly fine. Linear gene deletion. Decreasing mutation chance is nothing. I just wanted the genetic reshuffle to buy myself a little bit of extra score. It's a very delicately balanced scenario. Like, credit where it's due. It's also very in-depth, uses a lot of medical terminology that I have to assume is correct, because I'm ignorant of the subject matter and just really don't know. If it is correct, props to you. I don't know how many hours of research you spent, but that's impressive. Like, well freaking done. 472 days, 38% cure progress, 51,121 points, 2 stars. Okay. Man, it's just exhausting to read because 40% of what's said, just means nothing to me. And again, that's no shade on the author. It just means I don't know what I'm talking about. But it sure as heck sounds impressive. Is it an ultimate bioweapon? Yes, it plays like a bioweapon, although I will say I feel like the lethality doesn't ramp up as much as I expected it to. It's not quite as much of a frantic race as I would expect in a bioweapon. Usually, the bioweapon seems to conclude within the first, year or so for me. So this is a little on the slower side. I'm going to go with it's a little bit easier in the bioweapon ramping up a lethality sense, if that sentence made any sense at all. But is it ultimate? Yeah, I'm going to have to say yes. So we like it. Big upvote. Thank you for sending it my way. I'm really impressed, and a big kudos to Theoxys for assisting. Man, I need to take a break. I'm going to make sure I actually hit the stop recording button today so I don't have to do this a third time. Thank you all for watching. I do hope that you enjoyed. If so, then I ask that you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. Hit that notify bell, and I will see you guys next time.